Today I'm going to give you the 3 ways to increase, even double, your insurance sales income. If you're interested in making more money with whatever insurance sales product you are offering to your clients, then this video is for you. My name is David Duford. I own Duford Insurance Group. I train and recruit agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare, annuities, and ACA under 65 health insurance. Go to davidduford.com/FAQ to learn more. So let's jump right in. So there's really only 3 ways that you can increase your insurance sales income. The first way is to increase the average case size. The second way is to cross-sell additional products. And then the third way is to reduce your operating expenses or costs. And we're going to go into deep detail for all 3 of these. I'm going to give you some strategies and some recommendations on how to leverage each aspect of these different ways to increase, even double, your net income as an insurance agent. So let's go ahead and start first with how to increase your average case size. So again, to clarify, what do I mean by average case size? Think of the product that you're predominantly selling. What if we could add another 25, 50%, maybe even 100% increase into the value of that product? I've seen it time and again in the final expense space in my agency, where my average case size is about 550 AP. With the strategies that I'm about to share with you, we have agents that are averaging $800 to $1,000 in AP. It makes me sick about all the money that I lost because I was too dumb not to implement these back in the day when I was selling, because I would have made a lot more money. But the point is, that's what we're going to think of when we're going to increase our average case size. With what we've got, are we doing everything we can to expand the earning capability off of that product? So let's go into a couple of things that we can do right away to get an immediate impact. And what I like about these 3 different strategies here is you don't need to learn any new products or any new complicated sales strategies. You don't need to change up your lead program. You just need to change a couple of tweaks in your presentation in order to start increasing the average case size. So number 1 on the list here is a strategic pricing presentation. So there's 2 parts to this. First of all, you need to be selling the premium. And then second of all, you need to strategically think about how you actually present your pricing at the close. So let's start with selling the premium. Selling the premium, what is that? Well, that's when we, instead of offering an arbitrary face amount for the client, let's say in the life insurance space, we actually sell based off of what the premium the client can afford. The strategy is very simple. What we do instead of offering a low premium is start with a very high premium. This is a old-fashioned strategy used a lot in car sales, where you hit them with a really high price that sounds outrageous or out of bounds and kind of shocks and scares the client. But they feel comfortable as we drop that price down to a lower level. But unbeknownst to the client, the level we go to, very commonly because of the relative disposition between the high price and where we end, is a lot higher than if we didn't do the pricing strategy. In other words, if I started a client at $100 a month, could you afford that? They probably would have said no, and I'd end up more commonly in the $40 to $60 range. But since I start my budgeting at $150 to $200 and go down a couple of times, more often I end up at $75 to $100 or $50 to $75. And I end up in many cases with a higher average policy size because the premium they arrive to ends up higher, but relatively a better deal than the high price sticker shock that I gave them. This strategy works great. You just have to have chutzpah. You actually have to have a little guts to put it into place. But if you can do it, it works wonderfully. This is the one thing we did that I really think in my business, in the final expense space, this works for life insurance too, any kind of life products, where we got an immediate boost in the average case size. Because relatively, $75 sounds a lot better than $200, as opposed to $100 to $75 sounds like, it's not big of a difference, probably wants it a little bit lower. The other thing that we do at the close is instead of offering so we offer a good, better, best close, right? Kind of typical stuff in the insurance space, nothing fantastic. So a good, better, best is like there's a 1, 2, 3 prices, low price, medium price, high price, right? So what we used to do is, let's say the client said yes to 75 to 100. I would show a good at 75, a better price, middle price at say 90, and the best price at 100. Most of the time the client picks the middle. Sometimes they pick the high, sometimes they pick the low. But what I learned from an agent I did an interview with, I think it was Ryan Lodi, checked that out earlier in 2022, very good interview. He's a young guy who just crushes it into this business. He said he started asking people bluntly, would you consider buying more? And so what I took from that is, instead of offering, saying, would you buy more, which it does work, you can do that, is to restructure the good, better, best strategy. So here's how I do it. What we do now is we make the good still 75. The better, instead of 85 or 90, is now 100. And then the best is now a stretch goal. We're going to stretch that budget out of that budget they gave us and try to go for maybe 110 or 125. Usually it's one interval above, so it's 75 to 100 to be 125. And here's what happens. The people who pick the middle still pick the middle. So instead of 90, I'm making 100. So I've increased my average case size by 120 AP a year. The same people who would have bought the best now buy the best at 125 instead of 100. So I've increased my case size in those rare cases by 300 AP. And the people who just buy the cheapest are going to buy the cheapest, and that doesn't change at all. So I haven't lost any upside. I haven't lost any income. I've just increased my average case size with this strategy. And again, it just works wonders. And I'm still aligned with their budget on the good, better side, right, the 75 to 100. So it's not offensive to them to show them a higher price one, to just get that occasional opportunity to stretch a little bit more, where they now feel a little more comfortable spending more money. If you're not doing this, you should be, because it is a huge opportunity to make more money per sale. The next thing we do is talk about inflation. Again, you might be a little worried if you're watching this while inflation is going through the roof, that maybe this is a bad idea to talk with your client because maybe they're tight on their budget. Don't worry about that. The reason we talk about inflation is to talk about its impact on the cost of dying. Your clients are going to die either way. They're older in the final expense space if that's what you're selling, especially if they're in the older 50 or older side. But they need to make sure that they've got enough coverage in place to not just handle today's costs but tomorrow's. That's very important. So in the final expense space, for example, we talk about inflation, how $10,000 burials today are probably going to cost more like $20,000 20 years from now. So you should buy not just enough for today, but for tomorrow. This is a way that we increase the need larger than what they originally perceived. And for some of those people, they'll be more motivated to buy higher amounts of coverage. Again, increasing your average case size. You can also do additional riders on top of what you're selling. You can add children's coverage, like term rider type policies, accidental policies, that kind of thing can kind of bump the premium a little bit, not by a substantial amount, but it's a way to kind of push the average case size up by $5, maybe $10, which that can add up a lot over the course of, selling a lot of policies per year. So that's how we increase the average case size, with real emphasis on selling the premium and then how we display the pricing. That's really our primary strategy. It's what I'd absolutely recommend. The other way to increase your average case size and to therefore, or not average case size, but increase your net income to potentially double it, and we'll talk about kind of how to double it more often at the end, is to increase or find more products to cross-sell, okay? This is another way that you get more money out of each of your leads prospects, is by selling more product. Now, if you're new to this business of insurance sales, I recommend niching. I don't recommend jumping in right away and cross-selling like a madman, because this business is pretty overwhelming and you want to give yourself the opportunity to learn it first. But once you become an intermediate level agent, then it's a wise decision to start cross-selling. So what kind of products should you cross-sell? First of all, I think you should cross-sell products that are very much related to what it is that you're selling. So maybe, for example, if you are selling people who are under 65 and not retired, a great cross-sell opportunity is ACA health insurance. That is a product that is growing in popularity. Like if you're selling mortgage protection, you're seeing a lot of people that may be not interested in life insurance, but maybe also will be interested in ACA. So you increase your income where there was none to be had if you weren't selling that. Likewise, if you're selling something like final expense or dealing with a senior market, the cross-sell Medicare is another great opportunity to create a residual type of income for a lot of people who already have Medicare and are able to buy. Another thing you can do is that if you're selling Medicare, if you're not cross-selling ancillary products like hospitalization, cancer coverage, dental, vision, and hearing, these are just easy ways to up your income, to cross-sell products that people already know they need, and to make more money from each of your sales presentations. So those are the ways, pick one of those is kind of what I would say, run with that. Gradually build up the amount of cross-selling you do. Just don't jump in and do all of these things, because everything just becomes overwhelming. Pick one, get good at it, then pick another one and get good at that. The last thing you can do here, and this is the one that I don't like the least to really fool with, because I think you can kind of get a bad perception out of this, is to reduce your operating cost, right? You can increase your net income if you reduce what it costs to actually run your business, arguably, correct? But the problem with that is that if you start looking as an insurance agent at your operating costs, you're probably looking at 90% plus or more of your operating costs being leads. And leads aren't really a cost, they're an investment. If you start thinking about, well, it costs a lot to be in business, it costs is like a problem. An investment is a way to yield more return. There's a positive aspect to an investment and a negative one to cost. And if you start thinking too much about how do I reduce my cost from 100,000 or 50,000 a year to 25,000 a year, so I can yield 25,000 net income more a year, that may also affect your overall sales, right? And there may be a dire consequence to your overall net income by a vaster reduction in your revenue than on the savings of the supposed costs. So generally speaking, I just don't like thinking of you fooling around with the cost side of the equation. You certainly don't want to waste your costs or waste your investment, maximize your investment. I'm more concerned about getting everything you can out of that investment, which you really do if you start cross-selling and maximizing your case value, right? But one way to think about it, instead of just eliminating your cost as an insurance agent, really your marketing cost, is to reduce your average acquisition cost. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. I wouldn't necessarily change what is already working. This kind of presumes this is the case. If you're watching this video, that you're doing a lead program, whatever it is, that's working well. Maybe you implement a referral program to where you're now getting referrals, you're asking everybody referrals, you're following up with your clients for referrals. This is essentially a free lead that closes at a higher rate. This helps reduce your average cost expectation so that you can sell more without the higher investment, thus increase your net income. You can incorporate seminars. Those generally can be cost-free if you know how to go about it. You can watch videos if you do a YouTube search for those if you're interested. But that's pretty much the extent of how I would fool with the cost side. Again, it's easier to look at ways in your sales presentation and what to do to maximize either each sale or more sales as a way to increase income than it is to dramatically change the cost. We all have costs associated with doing business. They're truly an investment, and there really should be, you should think really hard before you change anything dramatically. So the last thing on here, so all of these are suggestions. Well, how do you actually double your income? Well, there's an exponential effect with doing all of these. And that's what it's really going to take to increase your net income to a doubling of where it is now. You're going to have to put all of this into effect. You're going to have to increase your average case size with the strategies we gave you. That's going to make a big impact. Then you're going to have to start cross-selling other products. My recommendation is probably a passive income-driven product, because that's going to pay you a substantial amount of money over time, maybe not up front, but it's going to allow you to differentiate your income stream and just increase your income tremendously. And then last but not least, it's to also incorporate some kind of program to reduce, for example, excess costs, or implement other strategies to increase referrals. Also didn't mention, but I should have, it was in here at the very end, also increasing persistency. That is a specter that most people don't catch on to. Having a quality of business increase that sticks on year to year, increasing it by 5 or 10%, the exponential impact of keeping a high persistency has a dramatic long-term effect on your profitability. And that goes back to quality of what you write, quality of interacting with your clients post-sale, investing into that and seeing that as an investment to keep those pieces of business on the book, especially the residual-based products. But doing all this is what's going to lead you to take you where you are today in your income to then doubling it. You really have to do all of it. So I hope this helps. Again, if you're interested in adding products on to what you're doing and you want to do something like Medicare or ACA, we can absolutely help you with that. Even if you're happy with your current organization as it stands, we'll be happy to work with you on one particular product line of your choice. If that's how you want to do business. We just would love the opportunity to help those out there that really want to invest themselves in these business lines. And if you'd like to learn more, go to daviddeford.com/FAQ. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.